What's happening, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here, live on the Thomas Take Sports podcast. Looking a lot different than the last time you guys saw me. The beard is gone. It had to go. It was time. Sayonara to those of you that are, tuning in for the beard, hoping that the beard would make its return. We're starting over. We're hitting the reset button from December 2nd to January 3rd. I was able to establish a very, very solid beard, and I was proud of it. I'm still proud of it. Dare I say I do miss it. But today, this is a awesome day to hop on the Thomas Take Sports podcast. There is a ton to discuss on the show today. The Manic NFL Monday that was January 4th, 2021. Per usual, Monday is a manic day, the final Monday after Week 17, leading into the playoffs. Those in the league circles call it Black Monday due to the fact that coaches fear for their jobs. Coaches that have every right to fear for their jobs, fear for their jobs. The writing was on the wall for some of these decisions that were made by these organizations, like the New York Jets, like the Jacksonville Jaguars. The LA Chargers, though, decided to also fire their head coach today as well. I want to dive into the Manic Monday that was today, the Manic NFL Monday that was January 4th, 2021, another Monday that left coaches unemployed, and speculating where these coaches could land, as well as sounding off on what is the most desirable head coaching position in the NFL today. What is the least desirable most desirable vacant head coaching position, or least desirable vacant head coaching position in the league today. Which team do I believe has a solid head coaching spot to, accept? And which team do I think has, for lack of a better term, a very crappy situation for any aspiring head coach to accept, for any aspiring coach to say, yeah, I'll go here. I think it could be a mistake for any coach to go to this particular place. I'll dive into those places in just a moment. But first, I want to remind you guys that the Thomas Take Sports Podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, as well as Facebook. A lot of interaction from Bills Mafia, the age-old question that has been asked each and every week this season, especially as the Buffalo Bills have continued this offensive revival that they have seen these last few weeks and just run rampant all throughout the AFC, winning 6 straight, which would have been, 9 straight had they beat the Arizona Cardinals. My memory serves me right. The question is, Brian Daboll, will he stay or will he go? That's the big question right now at One Bills Drive. Not only is it, can the Buffalo Bills win a playoff game? It is, will Brian Daboll be staying or will he be going? Will he stay? Will he leave? I'm going to dive into that. There is a lot to discuss on this show. But first, as you see in the corner there, my Twitter handle at Ryan Thomas Take. Feel free to follow me on Twitter as well. I want to remind the audience as well to fire away any and all comments that they might have in regards to the subject matter at hand. And the subject matter at hand to start the show off, we're going to go across the way to our AFC East rival New York Jets. Adam Gase fired after winning 9 games in 2 years for the New York Jets. The writing was on the wall for Adam Gase. I expected Gase to be fired. I thought he'd honestly be fired a lot sooner than what he was. And for the first domino to fall being Adam Gase on the Manic NFL Monday that was today, I'm not too surprised. I'm only surprised that it didn't happen sooner. I'm only surprised that Adam Gase was actually given this opportunity in general. And the New York Jets have to now shift gears here and make a very important decision, because you are in the third head coaching search in 3 seasons. The fact that Gase was only in his 2nd season as a Jets head coach. Todd Bowles was fired. Gase comes in for 2 years. So the last 3-4 years, we've only had 2 head coaches there for the New York Jets. And in order to catch up to these guys, the AFC East champion Buffalo Bills, in order to even make any ground I think the head coach of the New York Jets has to be somebody that isn't the greatest play caller, isn't the greatest defensive mind or the greatest offensive mind. You have to have a coach that has a capability of leading men. You hear that phrase, a leader of men in the National Football League. Sean McDermott comes to mind. Andy Reid comes to mind. These coaches that, yeah, their skills are warranted. Their experience on one side of the ball over the other is glaring. McDermott, obviously a defensive-minded coach. Andy Reid, an offensive-minded coach. Ron Rivera, another guy that I could throw out there. Bill Belichick, obviously. Leaders of men, people that can unite a locker room, people that can cultivate talent and bring out the best in the personality traits of each one of their players. I think that's what makes great head coaches in this league. You see it littered throughout the league that the great head coaches can lead the men that they coach and can unite the different personality types within an NFL locker room. And it sounds very vague. It sounds so simple, but for a coach like Adam Gase, who had failed to do that once, it was only a matter of time before another team realized that he was going to fail to do it again. And that other team, unfortunately, was the New York Jets hiring Gase as a head coach. It's one thing hiring Gase in general. If they had hired him as an offensive coordinator, if they had hired him as a quarterback's coach, that's where he has had success, albeit you can call it success in Denver coaching Peyton Manning. I say that in quotations. But to put Adam Gase in this position as the head coach was a big failure from the jump. And Adam Gase should never be a head coach in this league again. I think that goes without saying. Dare I say it, he might not ever be an offensive coordinator in this league again with how bad the New York Jets have been this season as well as last season. There were moments where they showed some fight towards the end of this year, but it was too little too late, and the moments were few and far between. And Sam Darnold has been failed. And Jeremy Schaap had a hot take about the New York Jets, stating that Sam Darnold, or that the Jets didn't deserve Trevor Lawrence. And it's a rare occasion that I agree with Jeremy Schaap. But what Jeremy Schaap means by that is not that the Jets didn't deserve Trevor Lawrence. It's that the Jets fans and the Jets organization have a good quarterback already. I think Sam Darnold, albeit a turnover machine in Adam Gase's offense, needs that reset. Whether that reset comes as a member of the New York Jets or as a member of another team, that remains to be seen. But I think Sam Darnold does have the talent, does have the goods to put out a better showing than what he has. And I think he's been a product of bad coaching. I think the Jets have failed him immensely. So this is a victory for not just Jets fans, but most importantly for Sam Darnold. The biggest victory of Sam Darnold's career is that Adam Gase is out of the building. Adam Gase is fired after winning 9 games in 2 years. The next headline, Doug Marrone, Saint Doug. Remember Saint Doug? I don't know if you guys remember that storyline that Doug Marrone referred to himself as a saint. If he were to win here, they'd call me Saint Doug. Well, safe to say, we're not calling Doug Marrone Saint Doug. We're forgetting that. We're putting that in our rear view now that we got the man that is Sean McDermott. The real head coach of the Buffalo Bills. I don't think Doug Marrone ever even deserved that title. I was not happy when the Bills brought in Doug Marrone when they did after going 25-25 at Syracuse. Like, that was the biggest thing. I was just flabbergasted by that hire. He quits on the Bills. He quits on leaders like Fred Jackson, who say in interviews on the Buffalo News that, Doug Marrone never even sent me a text when he decided to enact his opt-out clause. Didn't even have the gall to send a text to his players saying, hey, thanks for the memories. Thanks for working hard, but I'm out. Just rode off into the sunset. Just said, thanks, but no thanks. I'm out. So it's fitting that Doug Marrone gets a second opportunity to coach at the, within the head coaching ranks. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, they go 1-15. The team is an absolute dumpster fire. They've hit the reset button multiple times in many ways, trading off highly talented players. You remember a couple years back, that Jacksonville defense gave Tom Brady fits in the AFC Championship game. And it didn't even, that defense doesn't even exist anymore. I don't even know if there's a single player from that defense remaining on the Jaguars roster. And if there is, it's maybe one or two at most. So Doug Marrone being fired from the Jags, I'm not rooting for any one particular coach to get fired, but you do have to kind of smile and say to yourself, that guy was never the guy. I don't know what the Bills saw, and furthermore, I don't know what the Jaguars saw to bring him in and think that this guy could unite men and lead players that are, one guy could be 21, the next guy could be 35. Those two players with that much of an age disparity, or let's just even say Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tom Brady. Tom Brady played against Antoine Winfield Jr.'s dad. So that just goes to show you what, a coach like Bruce Arians has had to somewhat cultivate. Doug Marrone never had that ability. And as they've hit the reset button, they obviously have ownership over that first overall pick. So we'll dive into that a little bit later as I run through some of the head coaches that were fired. The next head coach that was fired that you could say was a little bit of a surprise. You could say that. I will tell you why I wasn't surprised that the Los Angeles Chargers decided to fire Anthony Lynn. This was Lynn's fourth season as the head coach of the LA Chargers, and he had put together a winning streak, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, off the top of my head, not remembering it right off the top of my head, so you guys feel free to correct me on that on the live broadcast, but I've always liked Anthony Lynn in terms of what he can bring to the offensive side of the football. His play calling, his running schemes in his offense, I think, are highly efficient. Justin Herbert had a fantastic season, the greatest rookie quarterback season statistically of all time. So, for them to go 7-9 with the greatest statistical season that a rookie quarterback has ever had, you scratch your head and say, why? If you guys watched any of the Chargers games outside of the Chargers versus the Buffalo Bills, you would then quickly find out how and why Anthony Lynn led the Chargers to a 7-9 record. Clock management, odd play calling, mismanaging timeouts, overutilizing timeouts or underutilizing timeouts. Guess you could antiquate that with clock management. But me in particular, looking at the LA Chargers, when you have a great quarterback in Justin Herbert, you have to have a great head coach to pair alongside him, whether he is a defensive-oriented coach or an offensive-oriented coach on the offensive side of the ball. And Lynn, while a good offensive coordinator, he was a fair head coach. He did not manage the team well in games. And he shot the Chargers in the foot the majority of the time throughout this 2020 season. So, yeah, I wasn't really as shocked as most were that the Chargers decided to fire Anthony Lynn. I think a lot of the Chargers players are disappointed. I read, Justin Herbert's statements on the Chargers deciding to fire Anthony Lynn. He said something to the tune of, "I will miss him. He worked wonders for my career and was able to give me an opportunity in this league when I didn't know if I deserved one or not." Something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing there, but Anthony Lynn, I think, will get a offensive coordinator opportunity, and he should. I think he is a good offensive coordinator. I just don't know if he's a head coach. Thus far, he's proven not to be a head coach. So with all that being said, you have vacant head coaching positions in or within the New York Jets, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, with the LA Chargers, with the Detroit Lions, and with the Houston Texans. You got, count them, 6 head coaching vacancies in the NFL. And I've weighed the odds as far as which one is the best opportunity, which one provides the best opportunity for a aspiring head coach, and what coaches are on the short list as far as candidates that are desired by these teams with openings. Obviously, Brian Daboll, Greg Roman, former Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator, his name is being thrown out there as well. defensive coordinator of the 49ers, who has done fantastic things. Eric Bieniemy, and I say defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. I don't want to mispronounce names here. Salih, I think his last name is. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, my apologies. But you have some coaches that have proven that on one side of the ball, they are dynamic, they are versatile, and they have great ability to put players in positions to succeed based on their strengths, minimizing their weaknesses, maximizing their strengths. So which vacant head coaching position is the most desirable in the NFL? I think this is a toss-up between two teams, and the toss-up would be only based on who they have on their team in one case and who the other team could have and what they have. The two most desirable head coaching positions in the National Football League, bar none, both reside in the AFC. Both feature two young quarterbacks that are going to make an impact in the NFL for quite some time. One is on his team. One will be drafted first overall. So you fill in the blanks there. The Chargers and the Jaguars are the two most desirable franchises for any aspiring head coach. And I tell you why. The Chargers have, outside of Josh Allen, one of the best quarterback prospects to come out of the draft in recent memory. Justin Herbert is the real deal. I was pounding the table, praying, hoping that the Miami Dolphins did not take Justin Herbert and took Tua. I wanted the Dolphins to take Tua. I didn't want the Dolphins to take Justin Herbert. I had hoped that Herbert would go to a team that needed him. He did. The Chargers needed him. The Chargers didn't even know that they needed him. The Chargers, I don't think, knew what they had, at least at a rookie level, due to the fact that the whole Tyrod Taylor thing went down the way that it did. That was a tragedy. I feel terrible for Tyrod. I always will under those circumstances for sure. The fact that Tyrod essentially had his starting quarterback role taken from him by a inept, incompetent team physician, punctures his lung. Justin Herbert goes in, has the best rookie quarterback season of all time, and Tyrod's like, hey guys, I'm over here. Like to play this week, maybe? No. Yeah, you feel bad for Tyrod under those circumstances, knowing, Tyrod's a great guy and knowing the leader that he was here. You hate to see a quarterback get slighted like that. That was unfortunate. And then in Jacksonville, they have that first overall pick. You know what's coming. Trevor Lawrence mania is heading to Jacksonville, from Clemson to Jacksonville. If you are any head coach, knowing that they have the power of that number one overall pick, knowing that they have tons of cap space and tons of picks to accumulate as much youthful talent as possible, this Jacksonville Jaguars team, within this next offseason, is going to be transformed. And the head coach will have a large impact on the decisions that they do and don't make. So those are my most desirable. My least desirable head coaching vacancies in the NFL would easily be these two franchises. And I had to edit the banner here for the viewing audience. The Jets and the Lions. Now, the New York Jets are a dumpster fire. The New York Jets have so many needs. The one thing the Jets do have is a young quarterback, so I would like to think if the Jets have any sort of common sense whatsoever, they would hire a head coach that is proven that he can work with young quarterbacks, that he can develop young quarterbacks. Brian Daboll is being heavily linked to the New York Jets. Brian Daboll is being heavily linked to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Brian Daboll will be heavily linked to everybody. He is the hottest head coaching candidate in the NFL right now, given the success that the Buffalo Bills have had on the offensive side of the ball in 2020 with third-year quarterback Josh Allen. More on that a little later. But the Jets have cap space. The Jets have draft picks. The Jets have ammo, so to speak, to make this team better in a youthful way for many years to come. And I'm not saying that the Jets will be successful going down this path we don't know whether they will be or whether they won't be. They have to hit on those picks. It's a great problem to have picks, but it could potentially be a problem. If you have 2 first-round draft picks and you miss on both of those first-round draft picks, then what did that get you? Not much, obviously. So that's how I see the Jets situation. They do have a lot of ammo to move around the draft and get some young players, but they have needs everywhere. They're one of the worst teams that the NFL has seen probably in the last 20, 25 years. Now, this one was tough for me to write because the city of Detroit, I've been there, great sports city, been to Tigers games, been inside of Joe Louis Arena. The fact that the Detroit Lions fans have seen this franchise kind of just wallow, whether they're riding the highest of highs, lowest of lows. They're never really highest of highs. They're always lowest of lows or in the in-between. They've just never been able to get to that next level. Guy by the name of Aaron Rodgers might have something to do with that. The defense in Chicago might have something to do with that. But more than anything, it has a lot to do with the fact that the Detroit Lions have been unable to find the right head coach. Jim Caldwell, I thought he deserved another opportunity, another year. They decided to fire him. They bring in Matt Patricia, another Bill Belichick disciple. Big mistake that blew up in their face. And he was fired, a few weeks back, and it feels like it was an eternity ago due to the fact that you had Adam Gase still with the New York Jets, but yet Matt Patricia was fired. I don't know what's going to happen with the Detroit Lions. This is like a crossroads moment for the Detroit Lions, which is why I say it's one of the worst head coaching vacancies in the league, among the 2 worst with the Jets. I think the Jets is the worst. I'd say the Lions is the second worst. And it's due to the fact that Matt Stafford reportedly wants out. This team has not gotten the push, has not been getting the trying to find the right word. Has not gotten it done. It's just that simple. They have not been able to get it done, and they haven't really built around Matt Stafford in a way that is conducive to Stafford. So I think that Stafford will be a goner, and whichever head coaching candidate accepts this job will be starting over, essentially from the ground up, and that's never an easy task. So last and certainly not least, on the Manic NFL Monday show, closing topic, the grand finale, is the one that Bills fans have been waiting for the duration of this show, and it's Brian Daboll. Will he stay or will he go? As I made my rounds in the podcast world, getting opportunities and going on shows and stuff like that, last season I voiced my frustrations almost on a weekly basis with Brian Daboll. I even wanted him fired at one point last season. I'm not afraid to admit that. I think it's helpful for any sports podcaster or any sports writer or any sports commentator, whatever you want to call me, to admit when they were wrong. And I'm happy to say I was wrong to an extent. I'm happy to say that I was wrong on Brian Daboll. I'm happy to say that Brian Daboll fixed what he needed to fix for the reasons that he needed to. And last season, I thought at times this Buffalo Bills offense was extremely safe. And the beauty of this is that I'm not the only fan that thought this. I'm not the only podcaster that thought this. I'm not the only journalist that thought this. I'm a podcaster. I am a podcast host. I have kind of shifted gears from the journalism side of things, writing articles. I'm going to fall back into that very shortly with everything I got going on in the works. But I think Daboll needed that wide receiver one. And I think underestimating how much he needed that wide receiver one was my biggest mistake. The play calling was so vanilla due to the fact that they didn't have that game-breaking wide receiver. The play calling was so safe due to the fact that you did have a second-year quarterback that maybe Brian Daboll didn't feel comfortable possibly, and I say possibly, leaving Josh Allen out to dry if Josh did make a mistake. You wanted to be conservative with this offense, have a conservative attack, and preserve the quarterback that is the future, that is the face of the franchise. So it was a little bit, we'll dip our toes in this fun-filled offense, but we won't fully go there. And that was what I wanted to see. I wanted to see Brian Daboll go there, and Brian Daboll went there. And the moment the Bills traded for Stephon Diggs, I said something to the tune of, now we have no excuses. It's put up or shut up time for this team, and in particular this offense, and the leader of the offense, the play caller for the offense, Brian Daboll. And boy, did he put up. He put up big time. So I tip my cap to Brian Daboll. I say I don't regret the fact that I was frustrated with Daboll last season. I think I had every reason to be, and I think a lot of Bills fans feel the same way I felt last season. But I will say that, judging a book by its cover, being a little bit premature, should I let things simmer a little bit? Maybe. But heading into this third season, I thought, now we got that wide receiver one. Brian Daboll has zero excuses. He's going to put up or shut up. He put up, and he is going to reap the reward. You better believe it. Will he stay or will he go? Either way, Brian Daboll is a better coach this year than he was last year. Either way, Brian Daboll will make money, whether it's with the Buffalo Bills or with somebody else. And listen, the reality of the situation is there are only 31 other jobs that allow you to run the show, that allow you to have the power that a head coach has, power that nowadays includes making player personnel decisions, whether it's draft picks or free agents. Power that allows you to recruit, essentially, to you take a college term, recruit free agents and let them know that, this is the direction that this team is going to go. Whether the direction is achieved or not, just having that power, having your name synonymous with a logo like Sean McDermott is in Buffalo, like Ron Rivera is with the Washington football team, like Bill Belichick is with the New England Patriots, Andy Reid with the Kansas City Chiefs. You are in a special group when you are one of the 32 NFL head coaches. And I think a lot of coaches deserved head coaching opportunities these last few years. They got them and they fizzled out. Anthony Lynn, for example, he deserved a shot to be an NFL head coach. Did it pay off? Did it work out? No, unfortunately it didn't. Adam Gase, did he deserve a second shot? No, he did not. Does Brian Daboll deserve a shot to be a head coach in this league? 100% yes. And are there more concrete reasons to believe that than there have been for some of these other head coaching candidates that have become head coaches in the league? I think Daboll is well deserving of a head coaching opportunity. And to play just the wide scope football lens of this whole thing, I hope that Daboll does get the right opportunity that is right for him, that is right for his family, whether that means he stays in Buffalo or whether that means he leaves Buffalo. I hope the right opportunity falls in Brian Daboll's lap because he deserves it. And not only does he deserve it based on what he has done for Buffalo, but he does have an acumen working under Nick Saban, working under Sean McDermott, working under Bill Belichick. He's obviously paid his dues to take a term that, is a average Joe term. You pay your dues at your job, you get moved up the ladder. That's what you do in an ideal world. So we're not living in ideal times, but in an ideal world, that's what happens. So will he stay or will he go? I think Brian Daboll will leave, and I don't think the Bills will be in as dire straits as what most Bills fans believe. I think a lot of Bills fans are panicking that Daboll could be leaving. I think they feel like, he's the sole reason why this team is 13-3 to an extent. Not the sole reason, but a majority of the reason as to why. And I think that is actually false. I think Daboll is a major part. Don't get me wrong. But Josh Allen and his development, I think, was set to happen regardless as to whether or not Daboll was the offensive coordinator. That's not me saying that Daboll didn't do a lot to help Allen progress and grow. That is me saying that Josh Allen, I think that highly of Josh Allen as a prospect. And I always have. For as maybe as wrong as I was about Brian Daboll, whether he was the right offensive coordinator for this team, I was just as much right about the Bills taking Josh Allen and solidifying that he was a franchise quarterback back in April of 2018 when nobody else was in this area. So I will throw that out there. You win some, you lose some. The one I won, I'm very happy about. The one I lost, I'm happy about that too. That's what makes this a beautiful show. So Brian Daboll, will he stay or will he go? I think he will leave, but he has to leave for the right opportunity. And if Brian Daboll leaves to go to the Jets, big mistake. If Brian Daboll leaves the Buffalo Bills to go to the Detroit Lions, big mistake. If Brian Daboll were to even leave to go to the Houston Texans, big mistake. Despite the fact that Deshaun Watson is there, you don't have a first-round pick. You have a lot of money tied up in veteran contracts. State of the franchise, not so good. Bill Bryan did a number and then some on the Houston Texans. The two best situations for Daboll go back to my two most desirable head coaching spots in the NFL right now that are open business for a head coach. These two teams need a head coach badly. If Daboll were to go to the Chargers, he'd be working with a very similar quarterback to Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. I think the best quarterback in the draft outside of Joe Burrow and outside of Josh Allen would be Justin Herbert. You can say that Herbert has some things to his game that Burrow and Allen don't even have. That's how confident I feel in Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler, one of the better pass-catching running backs in the league. Hunter Henry, a great tight end in this league. Keenan Allen, when healthy, he's a force. Mike Williams, a fair, not great, not good offensive line, but a fair offensive line, and an average front seven that features, I think, one of the best defensive ends in football in Joey Bosa. So, Daboll would have a lot of reasons to be excited to go to the Chargers. He goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's working with Trevor Lawrence. He's got a large say in who the Jaguars bring in. I think the Jags are looking for that type of coach, a guy that wants to have the say in both coaching decisions schematically as well as personnel decisions, quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, lineman, defense, you name it. So that's the end of the show. The Manic NFL Monday that was today, January 4th, 2021. I'm going to get to some comments here. Michael Geray says, Jets calling Daboll for an interview. I was reading, don't like that job for him. Hi, Ryan, what do you think about that? Well, you got my take on that, Mike. I think that would be a terrible decision for Daboll. I think the best two decisions for Daboll would be the Chargers as well as the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's the best two places to go in general. There's talk that Jim Harbaugh is going to be out there. I'm not really high on the Harbaugh thing for any of these teams, but hey, maybe he'll go from Michigan to Detroit and coach the Lions, Michigan University to Detroit to coach the Detroit Lions. I don't know. But what I do know is I've greatly enjoyed putting out the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. As I said, this podcast is available on all major podcasting platforms, so you can listen to this audio version of the show on the audio side of things on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts as well, watching it on YouTube and Facebook. Greatly enjoyed putting up graphics for the show and just interacting with Bills Mafia all around the nation. It's been a great season, 13-3. Playoff preview Wednesday with a special guest. Stay tuned for more. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, recapping the Manic NFL Monday that was today, January 4th, 2021. How about the fact that the ESPN writers reported that Chan Gailey, former Buffalo Bills head coach, was fired from the Dolphins only to retract that because they were pranked by a fake Adam Schefter Twitter account. Pretty hilarious. 2021, ladies and gentlemen. We're off to a fun start. Take care, everybody. Go Bills.